Hello everyone, welcome to the Global Apparel Sourcing Expo organized by the International Apparel Federation together with the Sourcing Journal and 4Source. I'm Stefanie Schröder, Senior Manager from Strategy End, the strategic consulting firm of PwC. We help established fashion brands and retailers, but also startup companies from strategy to execution. That basically includes 4 key areas. So we support on market growth and digital strategies, but also supply chain transformation, fit for growth, cost optimization, and value creation in the context of transactions. Today I'm here with Sebastian Rieder, the co-founder and CEO of BetaFashion, helping fashion brands first to optimize their merchandise allocation and then their supply chain with data and AI. Hi, Sebastian. How are you today?
Hey, Stefanie. I'm fine. Thanks for having me.
Great. Thanks also for taking your time to be here with us today. And maybe to start, could you say a few words about yourself and how you actually ended up at BetaFashion?
Yeah, sure. So my whole fashion career started already nearly 15 years ago. So the short version is I did basically everything in the fashion supply chain, from retail to wholesale. I used to work in Hong Kong for over a year doing production. We had fabric suppliers, which we actually then sold the fabrics to European brands. I worked as a product manager for a European brand in Berlin. And then, my last station was that I served as a COO for another Berlin lifestyle brand and had them scale up the business and help grow it. Then afterwards, the idea of BetaFashion was born. So during the whole time about optimizing the operations, we saw that there's a lot of struggle in the industry and we need to help them. What could be the best potential solution and what are different steps to solve these problems? And yeah, then since 2018, I'm there and founded BetaFashion.
Yeah, that's actually why we are here today. So we are really excited to hear more about how BetaFashion innovates the fashion industry. So now I hand over to you and your presentation, Sebastian.
Okay. Thanks, Stefanie, for the short introduction. And you already said it, we empower the world of fashion with data. And as I said in my short introduction about myself, I saw a lot of struggles in the fashion industry. And what has happened during the last period of time is, Stefanie, if you could switch to the second slide, is that the whole structure of the industry is based on that fashion brands used to produce their garments after the pre-order of retailers, which sounded actually really smart because the brand which creates merchandise handed over this risk of these new produced items or designed styles right to the retailer when they signed an order. Then they took all of these orders, produced it, shipped it to the retailer, and basically their problem was solved. So the retailer now has to take the merchandise and sell it. But what is now happening, next slide, please, is that even with COVID now faster than ever, but it already started before that, that retailers don't want to have that risk anymore. So they're operating as platforms. They want to have the merchandise just when they needed it. And so time after time, the brand has to take more risk of this merchandise. Next slide, please. So before Corona, this slide looked like that really slowly but steadily the brand has to take even more ownership of the inventory and need to supply their retailers with the right merchandise in time. So with the reorders or in-season management or always new styles. So, and most of the brands, next slide, please, see that as a threat for their business model. But what if I can tell you that dear fashion brands, this risk is your biggest opportunity to actually solve a lot of your pains and problems if you accept that you have to take the risk. Next slide, please. If we start from the beginning, I already said it in the second slide, how did this all occur? So the time where this happened started already a couple of years ago. Next slide, please. Is that when you have this supply chain and brands design a new product, the idea of this new product until an end consumer can buy it in the retail store is really a long, long time. So we all know that the life cycles of new products are really short now, but why are they short? So what happened after another? Next slide, please. Is that a couple of years ago, suddenly these new online shops were coming up and everybody was talking about it, that now fashion is available online and nobody knows really if it's a strong game or not too much. So, but if you think about it, is that what happened for the whole industry and for the end consumer is that normally, for instance, for example, let's take Catherine. Catherine was going to the local dealer and was going around the shop looking for new stuff she would like to buy, what actually appeals her. But now, since online shops are coming up, Catherine is not even limited to the assortment of her local dealer, but actually has the whole world of fashion in her pocket on her mobile phone. Then after that, also social media came up, which now allows the brands or let's say the online shop provider to target their specific customer. So for instance, Catherine is looking for sweaters, and now all through social media, these web shops can target Catherine to actually bring the world of fashion to Catherine, and Catherine doesn't even have to look for different online shops where she can find her next lovely sweater. Next slide, please. That all means that now the local dealer of Catherine is suddenly confronted with a problem. So the local dealer normally knows exactly, okay, Catherine is my customer, she likes sweater. When I place my pre-orders at the brands, I know exactly what is for her and I'm gonna purchase it. But since for the retailer now, it's super unpredictable if Catherine is going to buy at her shop or is going to buy it online. So the end consumer is now even more unpredictable than ever, that the retailer started to say, I cannot do that anymore. I cannot place a pre-order 6 months ahead before I get the merchandise to sell it. So product life cycles are too short. I don't even know how to predict my customer. So what I'm gonna do now, dear brand XYZ, is that I'm gonna provide you with a little bit of space here, and you can deliver the merchandise I'm selling. If you think about that, what is happening there is that retailers now basically operate as platforms, and brands need to manage these platforms. So brands need to decide what they want to give to the retailer in order to sell it. Next slide, please. That would mean they have to take over the responsibility of a buyer. So they need to understand the customer of one specific retailer, then also predict the demand of this retailer for certain styles, and during the whole supply chain manage also then in the in-season management and even before that in the planning phase, thousands of different point of sales in different cities, different countries. They need different assortment. And this actually now needs to be took over or needs to be taken over by the brand, that they can help these retailers making a better business. But the devil lies in the detail. I mean, finding the right demand, that's the next slide then, please, is really hard. So you have now two problems if you need to take over the inventory management for these retailers. The short-term problem is that you already created a style, you have produced it, now it's on your warehouse as a brand. And you need now to decide on a day-to-day basis what styles and how much of it should go to what retailer or what point of sale. So this is an operational nightmare and also a prediction problem. only after you have solved this problem, you can move on to the long-term problem, which is actually even more important. Next slide, please. So the long-term problem then is, what should you design for different markets, and what should you produce? How much should you produce of these different styles and different colors and all of that to really deliver products that are relevant to your target audience? But finding the right demand is also a question of if you sell products with a reduced price, so a discount, is there really demand for it? If a retail buyer hates the color green and he doesn't want to buy the color green, so it's not in the shop, is there really no demand for green? So all of these questions you need to answer during the short-term problem, so allocation of merchandise, to really find out the demand of your target group, of the different retailers, the different markets, to solve your long-term problem, what you should produce in the first place to then allocate even better. And this is actually where BetaFashion comes into play. This is what we do. Next slide, please. We help fashion brands to always have the right product at the right place at the right time. I know that sounds really simple, but it's quite hard. We do that by, next slide, please. We do that by analyzing sales and inventory reports and thousands of external factors to optimize whole assortments, not even just one product and the demand of it, but whole assortments, and calculate forecasts for specific point of sale, specific products, sizes and colors, and then calculate these forecasts for these products and collections. Next slide, please. With these forecasts, we actually introduced an engine that can now propose inventory action, so a detailed transaction proposal, what style should go to what retailer, what color, what quantity per size, which actually helps then our customers to increase their turnover by up to 10% for the individual retailer and all of them. Next slide, please. So again, really short, we help fashion brands to manage every merchandise action between their retailers and them. Next slide. Then these actions are actually human-like decisions. So the 4 key things of merchandise management, planning and allocation are replenishment, exchange, so-called additionals, and returns, what you cannot see on the picture, but we're going to explain it. So replenishment is basically the most easiest one. So you have a bestseller in a retail location, you going to replenish it, so send more of what is already needed there. You only need to know how much and how long. What we also can do is exchanges. So think about a retailer has certain styles, they're really slow performer, they're just take capacity in the store, you need to take them out, and then you want to exchange it with another best-selling style. But what kind of style is it? What should I give to them? They don't even need to have it before in the shop, but I want to introduce a new style. In what color should I introduce it? How many quantity per sizes? This is all what our solution does. And coming to the so-called additional is, as I just said, retailers just buy a really small portion of your collection or part of your collection. And we're gonna find the styles that have a huge selling potential for the individual point of sale to introduce it to them, that they can really experience the best sales possible through the shop with your collection. This all is made happen through our technology, and we call that next best offer. So we always find a style in your collection that has sales potential in an individual point of sale. Next slide, please. Since 2019, we have launched BetaFashion with our first customers. And since then, we actually they're growing pretty fast. We already have over 5 billion potential retail revenue under management. We manage more than 3,000 point of sales in roughly 24 countries, which is actually adding every brand and every customer really a strong growing data insight and data platform for us. which then leads to more actions. Due to the massive data we have, we can introduce new features and can help grow your business even further. So the question is, what can we do with it? Next slide. Next slide is, with these insights, what we do today, as I said, we really solving the short-term problems. So you have already produced merchandise. What should I send to the retailer? In the next phase, with more data and more insights about your brand. So how is your brand operating in different markets? What correlations with other brands do you have, with other products you have? All of that, we can actually help you to then optimize your first allocation or the pre-orders for every shop. So the planning, what kind of styles should be produced in what colors, what sizes and quantities. Even going further with these data insights is that we then can tell you for what kind of different garments or styles you need for certain markets, for certain retailers. So how should a garment look like? Just in terms of attributes they have, what kind of fabric you should use. Do you need to have buttons on a sweater or just zippers? All of that, and then optimizing your whole supply chain with your own data for you and with you. Next slide, please. So coming back to your biggest opportunity, and if you take over this risk, you will now see that if you take the inventory risk and take the control over the inventory, then take over slowly these platforms. So every retailer, you will supply them with long-term contracts that you can supply them merchandise. They will display it, they will sell it for you. It's basically your shop in their hands. And you now also get the detailed customer insights. So what is really demanded by your customer? What kind of products they like from you? What kind of fabrics they like? All of this, if you assemble it together, you are basically now vertical integrated, even though you have no own shops, but now have the full scope of planning. And this actually leads to the last slide, which is you are now able to really plan end to end. That means if you don't need to ask in the certain steps in between, what should you produce, how much should you produce, you're now able to have the idea of a new product. Then directly when you have the idea, we can give you the insights about what kind of fabrics you should use, what kind of colors you should produce it in. Then make your planning or your quantity planning, order trims and fabrics, already start the production, because we're going to tell you afterwards to which shop and what quantity you should deliver it to. And then you have shortened your product development to roughly 4 to 5 months. It really depends here, but now are able to really plan through from your customer in the center to your whole production and new styles. So if you're interested, I'm happy to hear from you, and let's discuss that further. So last slide, Stefanie.
Thanks a lot, Sebastian. Very, very interesting. And I think, yeah, the data topic is really now only starting in the fashion industry, and definitely you have an important and interesting solution out there. Let me just reiterate one principle of your solution. So first, you solve the short-term problem and then optimize the long-term, if I understood that correctly. Do you maybe want to elaborate a bit further on this principle that really drives your business model?
Mm-hmm. As I said, so the short-term problem is really finding the correct demand. So you don't even know at the moment as a brand, even not as a retailer, what is the real demand of a product. So if your buyer of the retail store decides, as I said, he hates the color green, he never introduces the color green to the shop, is there really no demand for the color green? You cannot see that in the data right now for this specific shop. Or if you have maybe too much merchandise and you're going to discount the prices, maybe there is no real demand for the products at all, or really just a small one, but how small or how big is it? So I mean, a lot of customers tell us always that they want to have these production forecasts. And we know that it's one of the biggest problems in the whole industry. And if we could solve it right now, it would be the holy grail. And I don't even would sit here maybe. But yeah, we need to first solve the short-term problems. So find the real demand. And this for every brand, every retailer they're selling to, every market they operate in, find all of these different correlations to be able to predict such a demand, and then moving on to the long-term problem and really helping them to, step by step, even shorten their supply chain and optimize their supply chain to deliver new styles all the time. Like you have a rolling conception of new styles and collections, and then trying to bring them into the market as fast as possible.
Yeah, understood. Currently our fashion brands and retailers are going through severe crisis due to the COVID situation. So do you have maybe one or two use cases for our audience where you showcase how the BetaFashion solution can actually help fashion brands to benefit from the crisis?
Also, there was one really big problem for most of the brands. If you operate globally, you saw that every country was going into a shutdown after another, but also reopened after another. So you had a lot of inventory. You need to shift around for the markets that are open. So you need to bring the relevant merchandise to these stores that are open, that have real demand, that have customers that really buy there. So what we help them is basically reallocate their merchandise to the countries or stores that have demand. This is one problem. And the even bigger situation or use case we have now with our customers is that due to Corona, the retailers are not even possible to pre-order a lot of merchandise anymore. So they have 3 months without any revenue. So the next financing round for them for pre-orders could not even be handled with some turnover, so they couldn't even reduce this merchandise cost there. So what we need to do now for the brands is, since these pre-orders going to decrease roughly around 30 to 40%. So all of the retailers cutting down on pre-orders, but they need to have the merchandise to actually make revenues. But they will only buy it on demand once they have sold other pieces of garments and they made some revenue. So what we had now, the brands, is to handle every of their retailer that sends us data and to manage them as a key account. So on a daily basis, we're going to analyze their assortments, and we are proactively now approaching every of these retailers. We see you can sell more of that, take it. We see you cannot sell that, send it back, we send you something else. So we really helping the whole market, so brands and retailers, to make the best out of the current situation.
Thanks a lot, Sebastian. We are already at the end of our session today. So thanks for being here with me today. And I really look forward to hear more about you and, of course, about BetaFashion in the future. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Stefanie. Thanks for your time.
Bye.
Bye.